Hi everyone, this is just a little video I put together for a quick review for Chapter 14 and 15 quiz. I'm going to briefly mention the different ideas, concepts, and terms you need to know to be able to answer the quiz questions. You might also need to look at your notes, my chapter videos, and the textbook to make sure you have a good understanding of the material on this quiz. Okay, let's begin. Chapter 14 is a basic discussion of persuasion as it relates to public speaking. Remember that to persuade is one of the general purposes of speech making. It's different from informative speaking, in which you act as a teacher or an educator. In persuasion, you might need to do some teaching if your audience is unfamiliar with your topic, but your main focus is on getting your audience to think or believe a particular way about something, or even to take a particular action about that topic. Because persuasion is a powerful thing, you need to be an ethical, persuasive speaker. It's not about coercing or manipulating people, it's about having the best interest of the audience in mind. All persuasive speeches arise from questions, either questions of fact, value, or policy. In a question of fact, you're arguing that a particular claim being made is either true or false. In questions of value, you argue for the goodness or badness, rightness or wrongness, morality or immorality of something. And in questions of policy, you're arguing that a particular action should or should not be taken. Also, Chapter 14 discusses the different types of audiences you might face when you speak persuasively. Your audience might be negative or hostile, which means they don't immediately agree with your thesis. For those audiences, you need to establish your credibility, find some common ground, something that you can all agree upon about the topic, and of course recognize that they may reject your ideas anyway, but do your best. For positive audiences who already agree with you, you can use engaging language, tell stories, and maybe even advocate for them to take a particular action related to the topic. For divided audiences where some are negative and some are positive, you obviously have to integrate strategies from both sides. Then there are some audiences that are uninformed about the topic, so you definitely have to give them necessary information, show them how it's relevant to them, and be both credible and fair. Finally, an apathetic audience might know about the topic but not care very much about it, so you have to really get their attention and relate that topic to their lives in a dynamic way. Okay, let's move on to Chapter 15, which is about how to set up a good argument and how to avoid bad ones. When we use the term argument, we're using it in the rhetorical sense. In this kind of argument, you make a claim that you want the audience to believe to be the case. In order to prove that claim, you use evidence or supporting material and reasoning, which shows the audience how the evidence proves the claim. There are two types of claims. One is the conclusion, which is the thing you want us to believe, and the other is called the premise, which is the because or the reason why the claim is true. In argument, the supporting material you use is known as evidence. In your research, you're looking for facts and statistics, which is logos or logic, and helps the audience make sense of the claim. You also need testimony or quotes from experts, which can help with ethos or credibility. And finding stories and examples which use pathos or emotion will help the audience relate to the topic. So you should try to use all these different kinds of evidence in your speech. Then you need to understand the different types of reasoning. Deductive reasoning is based on syllogisms and is good when you want to be precise and say that a conclusion must be true. Inductive reasoning is less precise, arguing from examples to show that something is probably or likely the case. In cause-effect reasoning, you attempt to show that one event caused another thing to happen. And in analogical reasoning, you argue that two things are similar enough that what is true in one case is also true for the other. Finally, Chapter 15 talks about lots of different fallacies or common errors that we make in arguments. You should be familiar with all of them, but for the quiz, these are the ones you really need to know. First, ad ignoratium. Now, this is saying that because something hasn't been proven false, that it must be true, or vice versa. Here's an example. You can't prove that fairies aren't real, so they must be real. Then there's false dilemma. also known as the either-or fallacy. This infers that there are only two choices, ignoring all the other possibilities. Here's an example. You're either in favor of this war or you're against our troops. Then there's begging the question, also known as circular reasoning, in which you use the claim itself as evidence for the claim. Sally isn't a liar, which is the claim. She told me so and she always tells the truth, which is the same thing as the claim. Then finally, the loaded word fallacy, where you use emotionally laden words to cause an emotional reaction and are usually devoid of any logic. Here's one. Those hideous so-called scientists who test on animals should be taken out and shot. Now, you may feel that way, but that is not a good argument. Now, as I said before, this is just a brief review of the things you need to know to take the quiz. Good luck on it, and I will talk to you soon.